kids, I was just thinking about how God wants us all to be missionaries. He wants us all to share His good news of salvation to everyone who doesn't know about it so that they can be saved too. When I was younger, I wanted to be a missionary to Japan. No, that sounds great, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound exactly like something God would want me to do? Well, not necessarily. You see, sometimes we want things, even good things, but they may not be God's will for us. God wants everyone to be a missionary, but He did not call me to be a missionary in Japan. So, although I wanted a good thing, it wouldn't really be good if it doesn't line up with God's perfect plan for my life. In today's Bible story, David wanted to do a good work for God, but God had never asked him to do it. I'll tell you all about it. You'll find today's story in 2 Samuel chapters 6 through 7. God had chosen David to be the next king of Israel. King Saul had died, and God gave His people a time of peace. David lived in a beautiful palace in the city of Jerusalem. David brought the ark of the Lord to Jerusalem and set it inside the tent he had pitched for it. One day, David was talking with Nathan the prophet. David said, "I live in a palace of nice cedar wood, but the ark of God sits inside a tent." It hardly seemed right for David to have such a lovely palace, while the ark of God was in a tent. "Shouldn't God have a nicer house than I?" David said. David wanted to build a temple for the ark of God. Nathan said, "Do what is in your heart, for the Lord is with you." But God did not want David to do whatever he wanted. God wanted David to do what God wanted. That night, God gave Nathan a message for David. This is what God told Nathan to say. "David, are you going to build a house for me to live in? I brought my people out of Egypt. I gave them leaders to guide them. The entire time I have been with them, my house has been a tent. Did I ever ask anyone to build a temple for me? You used to be a shepherd, David, but I made you a king. I helped you defeat your enemies, and my people now live peacefully in their own land. I promise you, David, that you and your descendants will be kings. When you die, one of your sons will be king. He will be strong king, and no one will be able to take his kingdom away from him. He will build a house for me. I will love him and will never leave him. When your son dies, his son will be king. Someone in your family will be king forever." God was talking about how David's family would one day lead to the promised Messiah, Jesus. Nathan told David everything God had said, and I love what David does next. David went into the tabernacle and prayed to God humbly. "God, I don't deserve anything you have done for me, and you promised to do so much more. You are so great. There is no one like you. You chose the Israelites to be your own people. You rescued them from slavery in Egypt. God, please keep your promises. I know your words are always true." David recognized God's grace over him and the Israelites. God promised David that future kings of Israel would come from David's family, and David's kingdom would last forever. God kept his promise by sending his son, Jesus, as one of David's descendants. Jesus is our king who will rule over God's people forever. Just like God made David a promise, I will make you a promise. I promise to never forget to review our memory verse. Do you remember where our memory verse is from? It's found in Ephesians chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. And it says, "In whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins according to the riches of his grace, wherein he hath abounded toward us in all wisdom and prudence." Ephesians chapter 1, verses 7 and 8. God promised David that his kingdom would last forever, and God has promised us that we can be a part of it. Through King Jesus' blood and God's grace, we get to be a part of Jesus' family and live with him forever. Keep working hard on that memory verse, and I'll see you next time.